Real Madrid and Barcelona's long-standing rivalry over the years have created some of the most interesting debates within the football community, and one of them is the matchup between Barcelona's icon Xavi Hernandez and Madrid's midfield maestro Luka Modric. So today, without all of the bias that's normally associated with these debates, which one of these two players were better during their primes, and who should rank higher as a legend all time? Well, to find an answer to this question, we will be looking over the four main things that's needed to determine who is a better player all time: their stats, the eye test, impact on team, and who had a higher peak during their best. If we start off with their overall statistics, Luka Modric as of 2025 has a total of 89 goals with 140 assists for club, along with 58 goal contributions for international. While Xavi on the other hand has a total of 112 goals with 216 assists for club, along with 36 goal contribution for international. This essentially means that Xavi Hernandez throughout his career wasn't just more active in front of goal in comparison to Luka Modric over the years, he is also one of the most prolific goal-scoring midfielders in the last 25 years, and is well known for his attacking output when he was playing at Barcelona. When Luka Modric on the other hand, despite having a really good shot on him and a dangerous pass, he is more known for his other qualities as a legendary midfielder. To put this into perspective, from a list of 20 of the most well-known midfielders in Europe in the last 20 years, Luka Modric is on the low end when it comes to his attacking output, having less than 0.30 goal contributions per game, while Xavi on the other hand has an average of 0.35 per game, which is above the 0.30 threshold, having more attacking contributions per game than great players like Iniesta or Toni Kroos, and being comparable to players like Zinedine Zidane, Cesc Fabregas, or Paul Pogba. So it's clear that Xavi is just better than Modric in terms of goals and assists, having multiple games, seasons, and tournaments where his attacking goal contribution is just higher in contrast to Modric. So it's only fair to give this first point to Xavi. However, unlike many other attacking players like strikers and wingers, a midfielder's direct goal contribution isn't necessarily what's used to judge how great they are, because a massive amount of emphasis is placed on what the managers see with the eye test. For example, when it comes down to who is better based on passing, both of these two legendary players are some of the best passers in the history of the game, having an extremely high football IQ and spatial awareness. Modric in particular excels at playing super high passes, lob passes, and has an ability to connect with his teammates regardless of the space that's available. And while Xavi is certainly capable of those traits, he's more known for his ability to essentially pass his way out of any situation, making quick and high accurate passes in small spaces or over long distances. However, although both of these two players are super accurate, with both having over 90% passing accuracy during their time in La Liga, and also having over a 90% average in their best tournaments, ultimately it was Xavi Hernandez that was better over the span of his entire tournament, being more accurate in the league and also in tournaments. But unlike their passing abilities, for shooting, Luka Modric would be the one taking the points for this one, but it's really close. Is the one that's more dangerous whenever he gets a chance to shoot. Modric is really one of those rare players that has more beautiful goals under his belt than bad ones, because when it really comes down to it, he would go games without shooting the ball, but when he does, it's usually a spectacular attempt from outside of the box, and when he does get to shoot, it's most likely going to be on target. Though I think it's only fair to give Modric this point. Now, when it comes down to dribbling and speed, this is where things gets really interesting. In regards to their speed, Modric is the faster of these two players, clocking in an insane 31 km per hour in the Nations League in 2025, which is a speed that he was consistently able to maintain throughout his 20s and 30s, compared to the highest that I could find for Xavi, which is 29 km per hour between 2012 and 2015. However, unlike Modric, where his speed is a massive factor in the way that he dribbles, Xavi Hernandez was such a monster at dribbling that he was essentially able to drag on the field at walking speeds between 3 or 4 players, and they wouldn't be able to take the ball from him, achieving such a level of simplicity that he would make the game look easier than what it actually is. And with such a dangerous skill added to his insane passing abilities, makes him essentially immune to pressure. And while Modric does have really good dribbling abilities, he is just not at this level. And this isn't just about their aesthetics either. The numbers were also in Xavi's favor, as he was more active when it comes to dribbling and also had a higher chance of success in contrast to Luka Modric. And finally, when it comes down to their physicality and defensive acumen, Luka Modric will be taking the point for these two sections, and it's not really close at all. Luka Modric's insane ability to adapt to different roles on Madrid essentially created a lot more defensive duty for the player, which is quite evident seeing that he's known for his willingness to go in for a tackle. When for Barcelona, Xavi's talents in most cases was exclusively for offensive purposes. And while he's quite physical and has a high work rate, it isn't as high as Luka Modric. So, unlike their statistical impact, Modric does have the edge when it comes down to the eye tests, and that's despite being noticeably inferior at dribbling. He was just much better when it comes down to his overall game, and not a lot of people would disagree with that statement. However, with all that being said, what about their overall impact on their team? Well, in all honesty, this really just comes down to what you value more as a player. For example, in regards to Xavi's impact on Barcelona and Spain, Xavi's impact on importance was unquestionable, being at the very heart and soul of both of these teams, and arguably one of those legendary players for the longest for both Barcelona and Spain that was irreplaceable. Not only was he the player that was mainly responsible for the most iconic position-based team in the history of the game, but he was arguably the most important player for Spain's golden generation. So in terms of his team playing identity, Xavi has a much bigger impact when compared to Luka Modric, and had a much bigger impact on the game overall. However, Luka Modric on the other hand was much more of a rounded player and was a central figure in Real Madrid's European dynasty. He was much more flexible of a player on these teams, and he had some really great performances such as his 2018 World Cup run, where he carried his international team to the finals. And this is without talking about the fact that he's still an elite player even at the age of 39 years old. So based on longevity, European dominance, and carrying weaker teams, Luka Modric will be the one taking the points here. The category of impact on team is just a little bit too close for me to say, but you guys could give this point to either one. Now, up to this point, we were mostly referring to these two players' entire careers, but what if we take a look at who had a much bigger peak? That moment in time where they were the subject of conversation. Well, unlike the majority of this video, which was balanced and competitive, this is where things really get one-sided. Although Luka Modric had a number of legendary seasons under his belt, being a standout player in the 2021-2022 campaign and in the 2016-2017 campaign, his prime is undoubtedly the insane season that he had in 2018. Where he was able to win the FIFA Ballon d'Or and played a massive part in Real Madrid's Champions League win. However, when it really comes down to it, midfielder has ever had, especially when compared to almost every other midfielder in the last 25 years. His peak in the 2008-2009 season saw him winning the Man of the Match in the Champions League finals, the Euros Player of the Tournament in 2008, and was recognized by the International Football Federation as the player of the season. And this is without talking about the fact that he played a massive role on Barcelona's treble-winning team, getting a career high of 40 goals contributions, which is something that the grand majority of some of the most prolific midfielders has never done. So yeah, Xavi is no doubt taking the point for this one. Okay, so what's the overall conclusion here? Well, when it really comes down to it, Xavi does have a slight edge when it comes down to the overall comparison. Statistically speaking, Goals and assists is massively in Xavi's favor, and although it can be argued that their impact on the game is probably just about the same, Xavi's peak, or his prime per se, is much higher when it comes down to it. Modric is only clearly better if we are talking about his overall game as a player, his adaptability, what you can see based on the eye test. So yeah, what do you guys think? Do you agree with the results of this video and who you would like to see next on the channel? And as always, thanks for watching.